speakers today are collectors who, quite differently from what was more traditional in the Latin American collecting scene, they have started to collect, or they have been collecting international contemporary art. There has been a shift, I believe, in the last 10 years, and this is a topic of discussion. There has been a shift in Latin American collections from regional and national art collections, contemporary art collections or modern art collections, to a more international approach to collecting. And this, I think, is really something that has happened in the last 10 years. So the purpose of this panel is to bring together three different perspectives from Mexico City, from São Paulo, and from Buenos Aires, and collectors that have been taking this more international approach. So we will start with César Cervantes, who is a collector based in Mexico City.
Hello?
Is it on there?
Hello, hello? Thank you, Jay. Okay.
Hello. Well, thank you all for coming, attending. The purpose is to make this conversation as open as possible. So I will just introduce myself or the collection, which is based in Mexico City. Formally, we have been collecting for 10 years at the most, even though my first painting, I bought it while I was still at college. But today, the collection is around 550 works in all different medium. Something very important is the books, the library, and that is close to 4,000 books now. The oldest work in the collection is a work from 1902 by a Mexican artist, a very important for me artist, Julio Ruelas. The most recent one is probably a few days ago. We have 180 artists represented in the collection. 20 of them are dead already. Out of those 180 artists, we have 88 Latin Americans, which is almost half of the collection, and that I only realized as I was preparing for this. Out of those 88 Latin Americans, 74 are Mexicans. So it's a very Mexican collection, but I never thought about that. It just happened. I think actually for me, the collection is not Latin American. It's just happened to be based in Mexico, and that makes it Latin America. But intellectually, it's a collection, an international collection that happens to be in Mexico. Out of the 180 artists, 57 are Europeans, which is 32%, and 35 are North American, which is 19%, almost 20%. Besides the Mexican artists we only have 14 works from 4 different countries, or artists from different countries, which are from Argentina, Brazil, Cuba, and Peru. However, there is a very important artist in the collection who is Ricri Tiravanilla, and he was born in Argentina, and he lived his first part of his life, he lived in Argentina. Now he lives everywhere, or in Thailand or New York. But if we consider Ricri Tiravanilla as an Argentinian-born artist, he still has an Argentinian passport. All these statistics that I gave you will change radically. Then it will be a more of a Latin American collection, but it's a case in point, Ricri Tiravanilla. And more or less that's a little overview of what we do.
Okay.
And
Thank you, César. Now, Jay Khalifeh, a collector based in São Paulo.
Good morning. My name is Jay Khalifeh. I'm 35 years old. I was born in São Paulo and been living in São Paulo since then. I'm very happy to be part of this conversation, to this panel. Be talking for the first time in public. I started to collect contemporary art together with my wife Claudia around 2000, so it's been almost 9 years. We have always been interested in aesthetics, as I work with fashion and she's an architect. And when we got married, we decided to start a small art collection to live with. So basically, we started to research on artists that we liked and how to acquire those artists. As for my business, I have the opportunity to travel a lot. That made possible for me to attend museum exhibitions as well as commercial shows and visiting international galleries. In 2003, we came for the first time to the Art Basel. It was our first international art fair. It was the second edition of the fair. And that was extremely important for us to open our range of knowledge about international artistic production and to understand how the art market works. Since the beginning, we never had a specific focus or criteria for the collection. We simply looked at artists that we liked, and independently of the media they work. So it could be paintings, sculpture, photos, installation. And we worked on a way to acquire those works, establishing relationship with galleries. So never the nationality of the artists has been an issue for us, for a criteria for a decision on which artists or works we decided to collect. So for all those years, we've been really dedicated on researching the international art production and following the career of the artists that we started to collect, or that we don't collect but we liked. Mainly this research is done by art literature, magazines, books, newspapers, internet, frequent visits to galleries, museums, art fairs, biennials, and artist studios. And one important thing is that for the last 5 years we've been traveling to Berlin to meet artists and visit their studios, and trying to be part of and to be close of the recent art development. So that was important that we could that way we could collect some artists in depth rather than collecting single works by a wider range of artists. I wrote this down, so I'm reading. Speaking of the, I think there is an issue of the Brazilian collecting scene. In my point of view, it has grown mainly with collectors of Brazilian modern and now contemporary artists. And so since we start collecting, we met just a few collectors that were looking at international art. So the Brazilian art collection, art collecting scene was not growing, was growing, but not internationally. Only the last 2 or 3 years, the focus of these new and old collectors has changed, or have been changing. In my opinion, this was due to the large media exposure of contemporary art the last years, and artists' collaborations with fashion, music, and architecture, which people that were not really looking at art but were looking at fashion or looking at music or architecture could be in touch or could see what was going to happen, what's happening in the art production. So besides that, many Brazilian artists are having the opportunity of big shows in international, local or international museums. I can speak of, just name just a few, like Cido Meirelles' show at Tate Modern, Mira Schendel show at the MoMA. So I'm talking about recent show. Beatriz Milhazes at the Fondation Cartier. And there was a large retrospective of Vicky Muniz's works in the MASP, which is the Museum of Art of São Paulo, which attracted thousands of people to see the show. And it was clear, that made really clear that the scene is growing, and the potential of growth of the art scene in Brazil is enormous. Besides that, the Brazilian galleries have been very active in the international market, participating in the main art fairs, and showing international artists in Brazil, commercial shows. That was important for us because that was a possibility for us to acquire international artists in Brazil that shows that were shown in Brazil, or they product and they create in Brazil. Some of the artists they did the work especially for the Brazilian shows, and that was really easy for us because we're like focusing on not on the nationality but on the artists we like, and many of those artists were shown in commercial galleries in Brazil, and those now I think the art collecting is attracting a lot of attention in Brazil, mainly with young collectors from 30 to 45 years old, and who are looking now for information and education on the art scene. Besides for starting buying or acquiring works, I think mainly they want to get informed, and they want to get education, and they want to start going visiting fairs, and that I think it's clear for me. And this I was really impressed this Art Basel, that I saw many Brazilian people walking around, and many of them I knew, but the majority of people that I've seen in the fair I didn't even know. And talking with some galleries and people I know, they had this impression as well, that there were many Brazilians that came this time, and people they didn't know, they were asking, and they were interested, and some of them are acquiring some works. And I think in a few years from now, this scene will grow a lot, and it will be really important. And I'm really very happy with this, because I think we don't want to be alone in this in São Paulo. We want people to understand, and people to be part of this marvelous things that is collecting for us. Just to name a few artists that we started in our collection. We started with the three first works that we bought, I mean, that I'm saying like 9 years ago, was a Vicky Muniz photograph, Chocolate, called The Shadow Painter, a Gabriel Orozco photograph, and Ernesto Neto sculpture. Those three works they are still hanged in our apartment since then. I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay. And now Patricia and Juan Vergez, collectors from Buenos Aires. Yeah, yeah. See if it's on.
Hello? Hello? Does it work? Does it work? No. Yeah, it does. Okay. Good morning, everybody. I'm Patricia Pearson-Vergez, born in Buenos Aires. I want to thank the organizers for making this possible, and I want to thank you for joining us. Well, I will start telling you how we started our collection. It was when we got married. We had our wedding list at an art gallery. To our surprise, we just got one piece, and we still had to fill our white walls from our new house. So that's how we started buying Argentine artists, and then we wanted more, so we went for Brazilian artists, then Latin American, and it was like 12 years ago, it was at Basel, that I bumped into a Shirin Neshat piece. And I was dying for it. And I asked Juan, please, let's get this piece. And he said, no way, we are Latin American collectors. And I said, I do want it, please. We say no to so many things just because of the price, just because there's no room, just because many reasons, so why not? And that's how we started collecting internationally. Well, from then onwards, the world was never-ending, and it was really worth it. Taking the risk, because I know we all have the fear of choosing for the unknown, and we get to know the galleries we already know, and maybe galleries from our own country with our own people, and taking the risk of becoming international sometimes is quite a challenge. So also we have some nice stories about our children. We have 4 children, and they take turns. We take them to fairs, usually Basel, because they can go at that time. And it was my, at that time, 11-year-old daughter who chose a piece. We asked her to choose 2 pieces, and one of them was Monica Sosnowska's Doors. It's like a long corridor, and you open doors, and you never know whether you've walked through 3 meters or 15 meters. It's like a maze, and afterwards that piece won a prize, so we don't have to underestimate children. He will carry on.
Yes. Good morning. Thank you for coming. It's difficult to talk in parts. You know, at the end you don't know what to say. But it's clear that when we started was unconscious, completely unconscious, trying to put paintings in our apartment, in our house, and this grew up to this point. We are going to talk about new collectors and how these Latin American collectors became international. I mean, I really don't know. I really don't know how we became international. What's a moment? If you think that we've been collecting for the past 25 years, and I don't want to say when we got married, but she was 12. I mean, you're giving statistics. I'm gonna give you years. So for the first 12 years, we've been national and regional, going up to Mexico, and then the past 12 years international. Today the collection probably is 75% international than national. And I don't want to say national or international. For me, it's basically one type of art, that is contemporary art. With probably an Argentinian flavor, yes, we live in Argentina, and this is the good part of our collection, that we have pieces from an unknown country for people that are living in London or in New York. And this is the flavor of the collection. We've been going, as the guys, as Jay, we've been going for the past years. Basically, the good part of our collection, of the international part of the collection, is based on Berlin artists. Because after the wall, we went to Berlin and we saw what was going on there. I mean, the city, the power of the city, the power of the property that was completely inexpensive. A lot of big buildings, nice, perfect for artists. So all the artists, and because another problem as well. I mean, all these basically Berlin people that were living in Berlin, they were not going to the military. So a lot of young people moved into Berlin, to skip military. So there is there was a lot of young people there, and a lot of young artists, and the property was very low. So the energy of these young people, started to grow, and young galleries established there. And the problem of the city was the collectors. There were not so many collectors in that city. Now on, there's not so many. They are moving into the city. Well, and we follow, and we went to Berlin, and we started our collection basically there, and we know everybody there, and we know the galleries, and we know the artists, and we did what the ABC book of collecting is saying: just go to the gallery, talk to the gallerist, see the artist, talk to the artist, go to the studio, and then you can purchase a piece. And we did that. And we did that with young artists like Olafur Eliasson. He was very young when we met him. And Rirgik as well. And a lot of names. But basically, let me tell you, I was totally afraid the first time I got into a fair. And this is happening to every single guy that wants to be a collector. He's afraid. Think about this: 300 galleries, 10 artists each gallery, 3,000 artists, 2 or 3 pieces of each artist, 10,000 different pieces in this fair. Can you see that? Impossible. You have to have a trained eye. I have 100 fairs, and I cannot see the fair. It's impossible. It's difficult. So imagine this for a young collector, or a person that wants to be a collector. Difficult. Almost impossible. Needs guidance, needs education, needs time, needs a process. Took us 12 years. 12 years. It's not easy to build a collector. So basically, we have some tips, but I prefer to pass the microphone to Adriano, because I think there are coming questions and answers, and I prefer to answer all these during questions. The future, nobody knows. As at the very beginning we said, I don't want to think in future. I don't want to think in having a space. I don't want to think in anything. I don't want to invest in bricks. I want to put the money in pieces. Well, now we have a space. It came, and without expecting. So basically, it's a long process that takes many years. It's not easy. It's not easy.
Thank you very much.
But possible.
Thank you. Before we open for questions from the audience, I would like to read a few passages from a recent special report on the art market that was published in The Economist last week, called Suspended Animation. Quite polemic passages, I think, and they mostly talk about the downturn of the art market. And I just want to clarify that I'm reading this really as quite as a provocation, and in order to generate some debate and some dialogue. But these are not my opinions, but those of the editors of the magazine. Talking about the downturn, experts reckon that prices are about 40% down on their peak on average in the secondary market, though some have been far more volatile. Almost everyone who was interviewed for this special report said that the biggest problem at the moment is not a lack of demand, but a lack of good work to sell, again in the secondary market. The market, argues the report, will bounce back, and the key to the recovery lies in globalization, that is, in new expanded markets beyond Europe and North America. Last year, for example, China overtook France as the world's third biggest art market after America and Britain. Everyone, argues again the report, wants an iconic work which helps explain the global demand for artists such as Warhol, Jeff Koons, and Damien Hirst. So perhaps Juan would like to respond to that?
Yes. Did you hear me? It's okay. Yes. Yes. I mean, this is expansion. China is building, I mean, a lot of museums. Every one of these museums, they want to have the Warhol. They want to have the ABC of the paintings, because it's like a ready-made thing. You go to the museums, and the collection of the museum has to have that. So, and this is. And all these pieces are, I mean, how you say, finito. I mean, it's, there is a limited number. So in this case, prices are going up. It's realistic. As much as museum they have, the prices are going up. And this is real. This is not anymore, I mean, the institutions and the museums and all these places are like terminal of train station terminals that you put the Warhol inside those museums and disappeared from the market. So if these institutions are starting buying and these are moving, and China is moving and opening institution, and they want those pieces, these pieces are going to disappear. And this is the reason of the high prices. But there are very, very limited cases. We're talking about, I mean, the superstars of the market. No? Not the young artists that are in this fair.
César? Thank you, Juan.
Well, first thing I would like to say, I think that the best thing for the art market is to get married, because it seems everyone started by the time they get married. So our Basel should have a wedding thing here at the ocean front, and that will do good to the market. It happens as well when you divorce. That does very good to the secondary market.
Good.
Yeah.
Also, the 3Ds are always good for the art market.
If Mark is around, he should take note of these important tips. Well, I think if we are getting into the price issue, which we all love, I think prices are crazy, definitely. I don't know what will happen to them. I think this fair will be crucial, as well as the armory in 3 or 4 more months. I think the galleries might be considering the possibilities seriously, but it's hard to say. In any case, I do think the prices are quite high, and it has to do a lot with this globalization issue. And not only with this globalization issue, I think in Latin America, all of our countries, like Brazil, for instance, was under, same as Argentina and Mexico in a different way, we were all under dictatorships, kind of, on very close governments, very kind of nationalistic governments. That's why most of all, I mean, I did do as well only bought Mexican art at the beginning. So that's what we inherited from our parents, to feel safe buying what we had on hand and that we had seen before in the few museums that we have. There was, in Mexico particularly, there was not a real contemporary scene. It was all back to the muralist and all this time. But then it opened up because of communications are quite different. I think that will change because for the ones we have kids now, the kids are seeing, we didn't see much international art, or probably nothing besides Picasso. We didn't know much about that. But our kids are seeing international art from the beginning. So I think that issue of being very nationalistic will change in our countries a lot. And that will change, like I always complain with, in Mexico, with the local famous artists. And that's an experience. It happened to me. When I start collecting, I will only buy these Mexican renowned artists that were very famous in Mexico. Not particularly in the art magazines, because there's no art magazines in Mexico, but in the social gossip magazines. They were famous there. So I will buy these paintings or sculptures from these famous, very famous artists in Mexico, and will pay big money for that. And then until I attended my first art fair, which was 2000 in FIAC in Paris, I realized that any of these very important to me artists that I was collecting were there. They were not in the international market. They were not in the art circuit or in the prime art circuit. So that was my first question. I got to understand an international market and a professional market, and there's where I realized that art is more. It is decoration, of course, but it's a lot more than decoration. And that's when my research started. So I only hope that it is not that our Latin American collections become more internationally, and we are on the process. It's happening to all of us, and it's natural to start collecting from your own country, because I believe it's what you understand the most or better, but then it takes you to different countries, and when you want to buy art from when you are attracted to, let's say in my case now, I'm attracted to an Austrian artist. And we have a couple Austrian artists, but I'm getting to understand Austria a lot better and what happened in the 60s through reviewing or studying this artist. So that's a good thing, but sorry I'm saying many things, strange things, but that's my point.
About this article, I really don't know. I mean, I'm following. Obviously, I follow auctions. I've never been active in auctions. We never bought at auctions, but we'll be following obviously the auction and the primary market prices for the artists we've been collecting and an artist that we've been interested in but never collected. And I haven't noticed a big change on the prices on the primary market for those artists. And there was a really an issue for us, because some artists that we started collecting 8 years ago, and we wanted to follow the production and keep on collecting the works from the next and the next show. And the prices were so high, and they were like doubling each year, that refrain us from continuing buying these artists. And that I thought that was the bad thing that happened the last years with the art market. And so I don't see these prices changing now. I don't know if they'll be able to keep these prices now, but now I cannot see this change now in the prices. Only in the secondary market, of course, but not in the primary market. I hope they change, that we will be able to keep on collecting the artists that we stop acquiring because of the prices. And now I think people who collectors were just talking before this morning about the opportunities now to look at historical works or historical movements. If you have a budget now to acquire art, and you are able now to look at historical production, artists, minimal artists, for instance. Not only at auction, but a secondary market, or even artists that are still alive, and but artists in the 70s and the 80s that are still working today, and I think that would be the competition for the young artists now, that started with a higher level of price, and they, I think, are definitely going to have trouble to keep on selling. And this, in my opinion, it's really a bad thing for the market, or for the artists, and for the collectors like us, who
Can I
yes,
sorry,
please.
Just to clarify one thing, we're just sort of pointing to a certain contradiction that we may see in the market. I think that's what
Yes.
you're implying, that suddenly artworks from artists in the 60s and 70s are coming up in the secondary market at prices at times lower than artists in the primary market, younger artists in their 30s and 40s, right? Yeah.
That's
So
what I mean.
let's see what.
Yes, but I want to clarify something. This is a panel to give some tips for the new collectors and how we build new collectors. And I never bought a piece on the second on the auctions. I never sold a piece on the auctions. I'm very disappointed when I see at the auctions one of my artists. There are very few, but I'm disappointed because I think this is destroying the circuit of art. I mean, basically, when I go to visit a gallery, the first thing that I do is talk with the galleries for 3 hours, not 30 minutes, understanding the program, understanding what the gallery is doing, the future of the gallery, and then when I understand the head of the gallerist, I said, now show me the artist. And then I pick the artist that I want, because I believed in this gallerist. They are doing a work. An artist alone, it's impossible. You go to the Seine in France, and you have thousands of different artists alone, and you pick a piece. Probably it's going to be a good artist. Forget it. You need a gallerist that is supporting this artist. And then you need a curator, and you need a museum, and you need a circuit. If you destroy the circuit, it's against the artist. So, if you want to check the price of a piece, yes, you can go to the secondary market, you can go to the auctions and see what's going on. I'm positive you're going to find in new artists, I'm in agreement that, I mean, today all artists in the secondary market are coming down. But it's, I mean, you can definitely have a good deal. You can pay in 1 year the piece in a gallery. You have to pay probably 20. Yes, you can pay. You have to. No, yes, yes. You have to build a relation. I'm sure you go the first time, you don't get a discount. You go the second time, you get a 10%, and probably after 10 years, probably you pay when you have the money. And this is, I mean, you need to build a relation. Just go to the auction houses and tell that. Tell you need a credit. Tell you want to pay the 20% extra that they are charging for their services. That is probably exactly what the galleries are winning. So, for me, let's keep the system as it is, that is functioning, and let's support it, because if not, this wouldn't happen anymore.
In my case, it might be quite not totally opposed, but I will say 30% of our acquisitions come from the secondary market, a lot from auctions, and this has to do with the path or the plan of the collection, where art from the 60s is very important to us, very, very important. I think it's the intellectual base of the collection. It happens there in the 60s. So I need to be very active and very very alert to what is happening at auctions. Like case in point, talking about Latin American, Gabriel Orozco might be the most important artist for our collection, or is the one we collect in depth. And at some point when his prices rise, not for us not able to buy anymore, we decide to put together the most important set of photographs by him. We say, I cannot buy 250,000 painting anymore, but I can buy 10 beautiful photographs. And I only get those historical photographs by him at auction. So I need to be very active with that. And I think it does good to the market. What it's telling us what is happening now, like you walk into the fair and see an artist, but if you are a collector, you must know what happened with his work in the last auction. You need to know what happened there and what is happening right now at the gallery. That's my opinion. And then I think, talking what you mentioned, Adriano, that many really masterworks from the 60s and 70s are coming up. It has to do a lot with the market, with the state of the market now. But I think it's also a generation happening. The people that collect that art when they were in the 60s, I think it's people that is now unfortunately dying or passing away or inheriting those works. And probably the inheritors are not interested in that. I know a couple of cases like that they inherited beautiful works and they just say, listen, I'd rather buy a new car or a new house, so I will put my parents' collection for sale. I know a couple of cases like that. So it has to do with the economy, but it's a generational issue also happening.
Thank you, Cesar. Now we'll open up for questions, and you have one over here. Do we have a microphone here for her? Otherwise, you want to say something else?
No, okay.
No, there's no microphone.
She has a microphone there.
Não, Chico, eu já estava desenrolando por causa disso.
I wanted to ask you, how do you choose which fairs to visit? Like which fairs on the art world are important for the new collectors or the people that are just starting out?
We, as I told before, we firstly came to Miami because it's the nearest place from São Paulo. It's only a 6 to 7 hours flight, so it's different of going to Europe or to New York. And so we started visiting Miami Art Basel. We went a couple of times to Basel, but we thought that we haven't come back to Basel because we thought that Miami is much more there's much more a younger atmosphere for us, and as well as Frieze in London, which I think it's a very fresh fair. So in our case, we've been attending these two fairs, not every year. It's been 2 years that we haven't been going to Miami. I mean, we've been 3 years ago to Miami. We've been going to Frieze these 2 last years, not because we choose going to Frieze, because it was part of. I mean, we were going to be in Europe at that time for work, so we just managed to go to Frieze and not to Miami, basically for work reasons. So, but in my opinion, those two fairs are the nicest for young collectors.
Yes, no. Is it working? I don't think so. Hello? Oh, excuse me, it's not really. Okay. Yeah, but it's not really reachable. Hello. Yeah. Part of my aim is to encourage people to collect art because I think it's nice for sharing. So I would recommend people to start with their local fairs, to go like Arteba in Buenos Aires, and well, get to see what's around, and so that they are in a cozy, known environment. And as I did, like for Freeze and the FIAC this year, I took a group of 10 people who hadn't been abroad in fairs abroad, and that was very good because it was a good way of getting to know galleries, and also the fact that there are so many parties and things around is also encouraging. Some people get tempted by that kind of nice week with so many things going on, and they end up going to different booths and getting to know people, getting to set up a nice relationship with the gallerist, and that is really encouraging, and it really worked. But I would start with that. Also in Berlin, the fair in Berlin is also, small, and the gallery night, yeah, it's also nice because it's fresh and easy as a fair. And then, well, come, of course, to Basel, Miami, Basel. But start with local. I think local fairs is a good starting point.
In this case, my opinion will be that in Basel, it's the true fair. It's the fair that you must see at some point. And what I try to do, or we try to do, is to attend at least one fair in Europe and one fair in America besides our local fair or our regional fair. But I think if you are to take seriously collecting, Art Basel in Switzerland is a must. You should go there because it gives you an idea, an impression of how big is the market, how much you don't know, how much is there to know before starting to buy seriously.
Thank you, César. Before we go on, I just wanted to ask one last question that Patricia reminded me that I think is quite important. What kind of sort of institutional approach do you have in terms of your collection? What kind of support do you give to artists or exhibitions or museums? Can you talk a little bit about that?
We have a foundation, and as we did some years ago, the Miami Design District, with the help and support of different companies, we took 10 artists, Argentine artists abroad, and it was really worth it. They were front page of the Miami Herald, both in English and Spanish, and it was great that these unknown artists become really well known. They were kids at that time, and they are pretty well known around the world. We are planning to do this probably in Europe next year, to choose another 10 and fill this gap between Latin American artists and international artists. Yeah.
In this case, what is important to us is art, not particularly the collection. So at some points, our budget is 25% for not only acquiring art, but for art projects or art-related issues like supporting museums, artists, events, things like that. Because that's true. The important thing is art, not specifically our collection. Our collection is only part of our interest in art.
You're speaking. Can you talk a little bit about selling in the secondary market as you build your collection?
Sorry, what?
Selling?
Selling my collection?
No, selling as you build. I mean, do you do any of that?
No.
Not at all.
No, not at all. Not at all. Probably some pieces. From because when we started with the Argentinian market, and then going back up to the 60s, because everyone to have this, the well-known artists, you start in that direction. When you really don't know, you try to mimic what your other collections or correct, the other collectors had. And I went back to the 60s, and yes, we sold some pieces from the 60s Argentinian artists in Argentina in the local market, because, I mean, it's not my time. I need to go to the future, and it's but basically, no, my kids are going to have it. Sorry, if I need, if everything is destroyed and I'm homeless or whatever, yes, I would, but you know what? I would give the pieces back to the galleries, and the galleries will sell those pieces.
Excuse me. Many questions.
Could you please tell us more about your Latin American artists that you collect? For example, in your case, Argentinian artists and Mexican artists. What happened with this team of Latin American artists? All of them are in the top, or you have some few more locals than international? I would like to hear some names.
There seems to be a lot of questions. So maybe what we try to do is just
two questions.
one question. No, not from you, from the audience in general. What I'll try to do is just one question for each person, because if the three of them answer all the questions, will take forever. So perhaps Cesar would like to reply.
Well, again, it happens that we live in Mexico, that we are Mexicans, so that's what I get to understand the better or the best. So it's both things. It's names like Gabriel Orozco, who I mentioned. It's of course very, very important. It's a path that we follow, and that had taken us to many, many things. Not only Mexicans. I think Gabriel Orozco art had taken me to more international artists back to the 60s and 70s, more than to new Mexican artists. So that's a case in point, but we have, I said, 49% of the collection is Latin American. We are collecting very young Mexican artists as well, but there's no intention. I'm not looking for the new Mexican artist. I'm looking for art, for good art that I like, art that goes in the direction that I feel the collection, and the collection is only the reflection of my interests or of my doubts as well, of the things I want to know, and it has very little to do with Mexico. I think all that I want to know about Mexico and Mexican society is there in the newspapers. So I'm more interested in knowing more, like collecting takes you to politics and takes you to philosophy, and I want to learn all that, but not only from Mexico, but from many, many different countries.
Yes. In my collection, in my space, I get many people from abroad and from Argentina, of course. And the fact that I have maybe Nicola Constantino, Leandro Erlich, Jorge Tomás Araceno, Pastorino, Maki, next to Olaf Aureliasson, Rikrik Tiravanija, Jorge Pardo, Rivane Neuschwander. People ask people who come from abroad, who is that guy? And it's so good how they become well known, or they want to go to the gallery, because that's what I do, send them right to the right gallery to get the piece. And it's great how they become known when they were unknown for these people. So it's really it has helped the artists, the local artists, a lot to be next to well-known artists. So that was really, really, and something that worked really well at the collection. You want some more names?
Thanks. There's a question here from this gentleman here in glasses here, please. Or we have two in glasses. That's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, it starts here.
I'm sorry, directly to the Vergez. What moves you these days in terms of art? What are you looking for when you go out into a fair, or you're looking at collections, personally?
What I'm looking, to buy, or what I'm looking in.
Internally, what any trends, or like he said, type of philosophy, political statements, or you just go with an open mind to.
No. Basically, we don't have a basic topic. It's vibration. When you go to the galleries, or when you go to the fair or whatever, and you see a piece and you start vibrating and you cannot forget about the piece. This is the piece. And then, I mean, it's miracle, but it talks perfectly well with the other ones. You know, I'm gonna give you, we went to see Gonzalo Fonseca. That was a very, very old and very good sculptor from Uruguay, in her studio in New York. And it was very difficult to open the studio because he didn't open the studio for. But this time he said yes. He passed away 1 week after we saw the studio. So we saw, I mean, a pile of stone pieces, amazing stone pieces, amazing. And I said, he opened all the cover of these pieces, and there were like little round balls, little part of the pieces all mixed up. And I said, Gonzalo, how do you know which ball corresponds or belongs to this piece? He said, forget about this. The pieces are talking. If this ball goes to the other one belongs to this. But I mean, what I'm trying to say is this. When you pick up a piece and you're vibrating because you saw that piece and you put that piece in the context of your collection, it's the same vibration. I chose those pieces, so makes the orchestra giving good music.
Over here.
I have a question. All three of you are from South America or Central. We've seen the economies of these countries emerge pretty significantly. The BRICS countries, the same thing with Russia, China. The Brazil real has strengthened enormously. That's why I think we're seeing a lot of Brazilians. Yeah, well, Argentina, we have, yeah. But we've seen Brazil, for example, the real go from 4 to 165. And now we're seeing
From 4? No, I don't remember 4.
Oh,
Do you remember 4?
Yeah, I remember 4. But we've seen that, and we've seen now all of a sudden we're seeing a lot of Brazilians here at the fair buying in dollars as opposed into reais. We've seen the same thing with the Chinese and their acquisitions, Russians, Indians. So in a way, I think this market has become feeling itself, which is somewhat unique. Now the international side, I've been going to Brazil for many years, and I've seen a lot of big collections in Brazil with a lot of internationals, but they were all investment bankers who travel around the world and acquisition work. The people who are your age, somewhat starting, but not necessarily there. Do you think that if, everyone's talk about these economies are going to start to grow more and more, is that really a basis for collecting, or is it, are you collecting for, to establish a base for Brazilian artists or for Latin American artists, as opposed to just,
Just one clarification, important clarification. In August 2008, the dollar was 165. So we're back right now to a sort of pre-crisis exchange rate. Of course, between then and in the months right after the crisis, it did get to 350, but that was speculation. So we're back to a moment, pre-crisis moment in terms of exchange rates. I don't know how it changes.
But even
just a clarification.
Yeah, but even if you look 4 years ago, 5 years ago in Brazil, I've seen the price, and I used to buy art in Brazil, which was actually very inexpensive, and to watch the prices increasingly move higher and higher.
Yeah, but the prices in Brazil, in Brazilian artworks, are actually mostly priced in dollars anyhow. So even, yes.
But they've still moved higher with regards
they still
to
move higher.
Like everything else in the world. But sorry, Jay, go ahead.
No, the thing is, I'm not an investment banker, and people that I know that, to answer your question, obviously that if the economy is going well, people have more means to buy art, as they used to have more means to buy a car or apartments or anything that gave them pleasure. But I think that now art is giving pleasure for people who had pleasure with other things before. So if they had, 2 years ago they were thinking of buying a new boat or a new car or anything, now they're thinking of buying art. And people that I know, friends of mine, I have maybe 4 or 5 couples of friends of mine that they came with me this time to Miami, interested in art, not simply to acquire art. Many of them didn't buy anything here, but I mean to get in touch with the art scene, to visit the collections, to visit the fair. So I think it's much more an interest in the art itself than the simply question of now it's more cheaper and I'm gonna buy it. So I'm talking about people that I know. I really don't know investment bankers in São Paulo, so I don't know which people are you talking about. But for me, I can clearly see that people are interested in art for many reasons, even.
But do you think it's also a certain financial sector that is interested in art, or is it covering the whole span of it? Because here, I mean, well, we're in Miami.
I
But
think it's a whole span. It's
It's
not
a whole-
like it's
no.
a whole span of architects and people working
Architects,
in the creative industries,
working in
all
industries.
Yeah, lawyers and everything. It's
Yeah.
not like the financial. It's not like
Yeah,
here.
but
like
it's
it
not
used to
like
be
here.
No,
Like
in
it
the
used to
US.
be in I mean, when you read those articles about hedge fund managers buying art and things, I think that maybe you have one another case in São Paulo. I
Well,
really
we
don't know.
Roger Wright, you know, in Pactual and Garantia.
But
and all
Roger,
these
but Roger Wright was a truly collector.
Oh, no, he was amazing collector.
I mean, he's a truly collector. He didn't buy. I mean, I haven't met him, but I mean, I know his history, and I know that he's been collecting for many years, and then he's collecting for art, not for investment.
No, but no, but I think it was just. I mean, I've seen his collection. I've been to his home, and I've seen the magnitude. It's all Brazilian.
All
There's
Brazilian.
no.
That was talking about. Those collectors in Brazil, they are mainly they were mainly focused on Brazilian modern and contemporary art, and that is changing now. That is the change that's going on the 2 or 3 years.
I just want to make a point how important art fairs are for artists of other countries, and I think that's what's happening. Before '92, and I'm talking before '92 because there were some very important international art exhibitions in museums. But before '92, Latin American art was very little known outside of their own countries. Even from one country to the other was very little known. And since then, the spectrum has opened. And the more people see Latin American art in the international contents, they realize how wonderful they are, some of those artists are. What is happening also is that before there was just Latin Americans collecting Latin America, and now Latin Americans are collecting not only Latin American arts. So I think this is something that has happened in Brazil, but it has happened in many other countries too. So I just wanted to point out, and of course, as there is demand, the prices increases.
I want to say that, thank to Mark Antonio, we became international. We were collecting nothing but Argentinian pieces, and he did a great job. Yeah.
Any other questions here from the audience?
Hello?
Okay, sorry. There you go.
I am Mary McIntyre from Sotoa Gallery in El Paso, Texas, and we have a situation on the border which I think you all are aware of. There's a lot of violence in Juarez, a lot of conflict. We're kind of in a war zone. And the numbers of new young artists who are coming out and speaking to that is really amazing just in the past year. I wonder if you can comment on the effect of the arts when people's lives are repressed and stifled by violence, how that might be able to help them.
Anyone wants? You do? Go ahead.
I mean, we have a border every day in our country. So we know about violence, we know about crisis, we know about death, we know about repression. I was listening to Ai Weiwei, and there's not much different what we saw on the 70s and 60s and 70s. I think crisis is good for art. So when you have crisis, people develop their talents. So, I mean, it's not good for life, for people. but I mean, what can I do? But for art, it's a good motivational tool. So I would say, let's follow the countries that are in crisis. They would they are going to generate the best art ever.
No wonder we've got many artists from Poland and, well, and Berlin after the war. And it was a very good time with really good pieces that I don't see if I see them that well nowadays. So crises are, we have to take advantage of that as well.
There's a question maybe in the back over there. Can you maybe stand up so she can pass you the microphone, please?
Hi. My question is, as a young collector, having putting price on art, it's must be an extremely difficult task. How do you go about, especially nowadays? Do you go more for you happen to fall in love with a piece, and you just it's kind of like choosing a wife or a partner. You can't live without. But how do you go about factoring in? Okay, I'm gonna choose this piece because I love it, or I'm gonna choose this piece because it's well priced.
César, can you? That's a different.
Well, I think there's no. I will quote my friend Patrick Charpenel, who is somewhere around here, and I'm sorry I don't know the word in English, but it's not falling in love with the work. I think that happens later. I think there are some works in the collection that it takes me 5 or 3 years at least to at least initially understand the work. I think works that are so easy that you fall in love immediately might be kind of risky. I think, yeah, I think exactly. I think you need lots of time. It's like you say, falling in love. Well, it takes a long time to really fall in love and to sustain that relationship. So the work, the worth, it's a pertinencia. I don't know if someone can help me with kind of belonging. Yeah, if the work belongs to whatever you are thinking about your collection, then it works for you. But I don't believe in the mystic part of falling in love with art or falling in love with a particular work. I think it's more about belonging. And the price has nothing to do unless you have a very strict budget, of course. I mean, we have a price range and we cannot, we have a budget and then we say we are going to buy 5 or 10 works. So we decide that's the budget for that year, but price is only an issue where when we had been collecting an artist but can't collect him anymore because his price had skyrocketed.
Can I tell you a story? It's a funny story about this. No. I mean, we went to the Tate Modern with Olafur when he did the weather project. Remember this big sun on the Tate, and we were invited to a private dinner that night. Imagine we at the Tate, and at that table was Olafur. I remember Timon Burkhardt from Neuger im Schneider, Patricia, myself, and another couple of correctors, Christian Boros from Berlin, and his wife. So after a very nice dinner and after all that, I said, I want to make a toast. And I said, Olafur, I remember you were a kid from Berlin in that show in the PS1 in New York, very old show. You, Tim and Burkhardt, you were 2 young galleries starting after the wall in Berlin. And we were very young collectors from Latin America and from Christian Boros from Germany. Said, now Olafur, you are at the modern Tate. All the newspapers are talking about you. You guys, you have the most important gallery, contemporary gallery in Europe, and we are very well-known collectors. So the toast is, we became friends. I cannot buy you any more a single piece because it's so expensive after this, and we became friends. But that wasn't true. I bought more pieces from Mulafur. But this is the point. I mean, there is a level that I mean, the artist and I mean, I'm very happy if an artist, if I cannot buy anymore an artist that I pick at the very beginning, you know, it's good.
Any other questions?
Thank you very much. I'm a student of contemporary art for the University of Barcelona, and I'm from Bolivia, and I'm very pleased to be in touch with you, so experts for me. And if I would get to start my own collection after I'm done with my studies, obviously, I think I would consider educating myself first about the artists I would be interested, so I could identify with them. And as a Latin American, I think I will study more about the origins of whether Chinese artists that a gentleman was talking about, Eastern European artists, and the history. So I would set a very solid basis in my education, and then I will start observing with an educated eye to see which pieces will make sense for me, so I could express myself in a collection, not as an investing banker or somebody who wants to sell later, because otherwise I will just probably go to the stocks in a bank to sell and buy, which is not the point, but to express myself and to identify myself with these artists. So somebody else was saying, I think you guys were saying, I will leave this to my children as a legacy. So I will set a point in a collection for the future generations, and I will communicate my point of view as a Latin American with the Latin American eyes to the world, and vice versa. So thank you very much.
Yes, I think you're in the right way. I mean, that's the right way to do it, in my opinion. I think for art collecting now, the first thing is the basis. The first thing is what you research, what you look at, what you train your eye. Because as Juan was saying, you go to a fair like this, there are 300 galleries, 3,000 artists, and you really get lost. Even for us, we get lost. And so the more you're educated, the more you're informed, the more you visit shows, the more you visit museums, the more you get in touch with artists, the more you read or internet, which is everything is in the internet. You can look at gallery sites, you can look at museums sites, and reviews and art driven sites. There's a lot of art sites now that reviews shows and commercial shows or museum shows. So this is I think this is the basis for someone who wants to become a collector or just to get in touch with the art world. I think that's the right way to do it.
Thank you. We have a few minutes left. I think you have the gentleman in the blue shirt had a question. Yeah.
Thank you. Does it bother you for you on the panel to have your art and artists cataloged as Latin?
Does it, I'm sorry, what was the question? Does it matter?
To be cataloged, to be specified as Latin American art. It happens so much with Latin America, and it doesn't happen with other countries, European art, American. Whereas in Latin America, I see that we're kind of bunched together and we're Latin American from the auctions.
That's what we're trying to do here, not to separate this from the Latin American art to international art.
Yeah, but in a way it kind of bothers. Yes, there's, I'm sorry to say it, but there's even Latin American art fairs happening. So we are kind of against sectarism or racism, but in some way Latin Americans, we produce that. We are strangely proud to be Latin Americans, and we only collect Latin Americans and things like that. But no, it kind of bothers. As I said, geographically it happens in Mexico or in Latin America, but that's all that Latin America has to do with my collection. The rest is circumstances.
Yeah, and as Juan said, it's just follow your passion. We don't care whether the artist is Latin American or from China or Europe. It's just you get to like it. And as I said before, why say no just because it's or it's not Latin American? It's a pity. Yeah.
I lost a piece in Guadalajara, a Kippenberger piece, $4,000, and I didn't buy this piece because I was labeled as a Latin American collector. So imagine.
Well, there is another question here. The gentleman in the white shirt over there, please. Over here.
It might be knowledge of the panelists and public here that the very first wave of Latin American artists as a movement, as a economical importance in North America was during the World War, Second World War. The channels of trade were closed between Europe and the United States. So United States economically, because of economical reasons, went to South America, Diego Rivera, Mexico, and other countries. I guess that now we are seeing a new wave coming. I guess that we have to label this movement back in interest of Latin American artists and art. I would like to ask, are we going to label this movement in 2010 and beyond?
There's no movement.
I think there's absolutely no movement, and if we're good at something in Latin America, it's at not working together. So I think there's no chance to have a movement. So there's no movement. There's no relationship, and the system is made for us not to have a movement in a way. The system will not allow. As I will say, our economy, sadly, and I'm sorry to say, but I think our economies will never grow. They will just let us grow a little bit and then down, and that will be the game for the rest of our lives, I think, sadly.
Yeah, ups and downs. Yeah.
Any other questions? Oh, yes. Where is the... Over there, in the back, please.
Yes, what I would like to ask, I mean, I used to be the curator of a private collector, but the way I viewed my work with her was a combination between how she would have liked to live with her art, but I saw it very much how it would have worked in an institution. So, and you know, private collectors like you have become incredible protagonists, almost kind of creating new canons of who are the kind of protagonists of Latin American art, for example, or so forth. So how do you view yourself in terms of that role that you are acquiring somehow in shaping, you know, almost the direction of how not only the art market goes, because it's a machine that works as a complete kind of clock mechanism, you know, where, you know, the works that look wonderful in your living rooms then, you know, go into the, you know, museum in Berlin, for example, and, you know, the one actually used for creating the new historiographies of art or for contemporary art and so forth. So, you know, I actually remember many, many years ago at the beginning of my art historical training, I used to be told, you know, you should never judge an artwork by the way you would think you would live with that piece, you know, it would be like synonym of absolutely no. But then it is kind of this kind of private and public way of viewing and living with art is kind of merging more and more. So how do you view yourself in terms of that kind of people that have a role that is, you know, very much between this kind of institutional, private, public, and so forth, and in the shaping of this, the way that we actually understand, view, and art becomes public?
Probably it's different the role of a collector like we are in our countries than the role of a collector here in United States or in Europe. There are thousands. You need, I mean, the good example probably is Mexico, that you have a good collector, that is Eugenio Lopez, you have a good artist, that is Gabriel Orozco, and you have a good gallery, that is Guriman Suto. This trilogy makes the world completely different. We have a good artist, that is Quitka, that doesn't have a gallery in Buenos Aires. So I mean, it's something that is missing. We as a collectors in this type of, and being alone, because we don't have so many collectors like doing the things that we are doing down there in Buenos Aires. We are becoming as a reference. We are not competing with the museums, and this is, I mean, yes, we lend pieces, but we're not competing with museums. We have our own role in our society, that is teaching, sharing, and educating people, being as open as we can with people that really are interested in art. I don't want people that are coming just because of fashion. That is, I mean, the art drives these guys up to certain level. I talk with people that are really interested in art, and this is encouraging and this is good for them. So our situation is that we are the references in between the museums, because we are a little bit more real than the museums. You can talk to us, so we can explain the pieces. We can share a lot of different moments with people that wants or to become new collectors or to want to see and being interested, so they can be in the future new collectors. In a museum it's absolutely different. I mean, it's almost impossible to talk to the director. It's almost impossible to talk to the curator if you're not invited to the opening, and there you have a few minutes. Then you go see the pieces and you buy the headphones, and that's it. The role of the collector is to be in touch with people, explaining what do you think is a good collection, is what we collected, and this works. We are generating not a movement, but we are generating a lot of passion, a lot of understanding, a lot of education, that and encouragement that works.
Picking up on that, actually, I wanted to ask you a question. I was just there visiting your space. I believe it's 6,000 square meters.
It's 4,000.
4,000 square meters exhibition space in Buenos Aires. Do you have plans, but it's not open to the public? I believe it's open by appointment to the public. Do you plan to, or what are your plans in terms of the future of that space, in terms of perhaps opening it up to the public at some point?
It will still be there. People who want to get there eventually do get there. So
you're not planning to open it up?
No, it's just because we live in Buenos Aires that we can't. Yeah, it's.
What does that mean?
Well, it's yes. Yeah, had I had this space, maybe New York, Berlin, it would be open. I don't know if that makes sense to you. It's due to Buenos Aires is not as safe as other countries. So we try to do it that way, but it's just because of that. I wish it could be open. But anyway, we get schools and universities, and we get many people from abroad, and they get to the space. All people who want to get to the space, eventually they do. And yeah.
Yeah, and the program we have with the space is that we are changing some pieces year by year, and there are some pieces that are impossible to be changed, because they are very big, huge installations. But there are some others that are changing, and then the responsibility of being a collector is not the same responsibility being private than being public. I mean, being public is another type of thing. You need another type of security, you need another type of insurance, you need I mean, it's totally different. And I think we are not prepared right now for that. I mean, the futures, nobody knows.
Jay also has a small exhibition space in Sao Paulo. It's also, I believe, open. Can you talk a little bit about this?
It's not really exhibition space. It's just that at some point we had we had a need for space. So it was not to be exhibition space. It's just to be able to live with not to keep the art in storage. So we thought of this like 3 or 4 years ago. It's a very small space. It's just to be able to hang and to enjoy the works of our collection. Right. So privately, and obviously we take some people I mean, who are really interested in having a look and seeing it. We open to them. But as I told you, that this movement, I mean, the interest in international art has been something really recent in São Paulo. So even friends of mine, close friends of mine, who I mean, we been friends forever. They've been coming to our house forever, and so and now they understanding. I mean, they seen the piece like 6 or 7 years ago, hanged in my apartment, my wall, and now they enter say, I like that, and then that was a good thing for me because we've been collecting art for 9 years, and we never. I mean, we wanted to. We had many experiences of people entering our house and having a really honest interaction with the works that were hanged there, because they don't know about the artist. They don't know if it's a cheap or expensive art, or it's a good artist or bad artist, or if it's Brazilian, or if it's American, or if it's whatever it is. But they have a really honest approach to the art, and that made that was really clear for us. That we said, I mean, there's some works and some artists that really
provoke.
And really provoke emotions to people that are outside of this world, and that was really nice for us, because they say, look, I mean, besides we like the artist, this is a very good artist, because this artist provokes emotion to people that they don't know about art. I mean, it's really that's been going on forever. I mean, for all these years for us. Now people are really understanding, and much because of the media, because of the names that are coming out, and on magazines and newspapers, and then they're starting to make connection with names and the artwork, but which I think it's nice, because that's the education. But the primal feeling about the art, we had been having this experience with people that friends and family, and people that been going to our house, and basically friends and friends of friends.
Well, thank you. I'm getting signals from our Swiss organizer that we need to wrap this up sharply at 11:30. So I want to thank all the panelists, the audience, and Art Basel Miami Beach.
Thank you.